Welcome again, friend. And I also welcome हम जहां पर हैं गोयनका हॉल के ट्रस्टी राजपुरिया जी भी आए हुए हैं। कहाँ पर है? सामने है आपका। मुझको एक जानकारी देना चाहूंगा। आइए आइए सर प्लीज।
सत्यनारायण गोयनका भवन में 4th फ्लोर और 5th फ्लोर एक हॉस्टल की एक्टिविटी हम लोग पिछले 2 साल से चला रहे हैं और वो भी हम सिर्फ सीए स्टूडेंट को ही दे रहे हैं। तो आप अगर कोई भी यहाँ आर्टिकल्स आते हैं या बाहर गाँव से कोई सीए करने के लिए आते हैं कम्युनिटी के लोग, तो आप रिकमेंड कर सकते हैं उनको। बढ़िया फैसिलिटी है, काफी यूजनेबल है। जानकारी के लिए मैंने बताया। कहते जो हाँ ये नहीं है भाई स्टूडेंट जो आगे जो मतलब रजिस्टर्ड स्टूडेंट हो, कहीं ना कहीं आर्टिकल शिप कर रहे हो। वैसे आरबीजी का जो मेन हॉस्टल है, आरबीजी के हम लोग फाउंडर्स हैं, मेरे फैमिली फाउंडर है, ग्रैंडफादर के नाम पे हॉस्टल है वहाँ पर। 70 साल से हम लोग। धन्यवाद आपने बुलाया।
राजपुरिया जी यहाँ की जो संस्था है बड़ी बड़ी, उनमें फाउंडर है और जो अपना एक्सटेंशन यहाँ पर आया हुआ है कि 2 महीने में मेंबर्स को दिए स्टूडेंट्स को। इट्स अ वेरी बिग फैसिलिटी। Anybody has got his article to be recommended for hostel, you can very well come here. और आपको आराम से यहाँ एडमिशन मिलती है, कोई तरह की दिक्कत नहीं होती है और ये सेवा कई सालों से कर रहे हैं। और अभी आरबीजी ने एक्सटेंशन यहाँ दिया 3-4 साल हो गए। हाँ,
पहले उन्होंने गर्ल्स हॉस्टल के
रखा था और अभी गर्ल्स और देश में बन गया उनका गर्ल हॉस्टल स्पेशल, तो उन्होंने ये दोनों फ्लोर बॉयज के लिए रखा हुआ है। तो जिसके बाद जो कोई समस्या हो गई आर्टिकल्स की अकोमोडेशन के लिए, या प्लीज रिफर करिए, यहाँ पर आपको एडमिशन मिलेगी। बहुत बड़ी सेवा कर रहे हैं, इसके लिए आपको हम बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दे रहे हैं।
थैंक यू सर। I know we are very late to this for the second session, and thanks a lot for your patience, because our second session is also a very important topic, critical issue with respect to availment of input tax credit under GST. Many of the clients every time GST का क्रेडिट नहीं आता है, GST का इनपुट क्रेडिट में प्रॉब्लम आती है, so many डिफिकल्टीज आती है। आज उन सब को दूर करने के लिए हमारे साथ में सीए निवेदिता अग्रवाल है। He will guide us how to take easily input tax credit under the GST. ज्यादा समय न लेते हुए I request our past convener Seema Mehta to give a brief introduction of our speaker.
Hello, it's my pleasure to introduce C. Nivedita Agarwal. Thank you, Kailash, for giving me the opportunity to introduce C. Nivedita Agarwal. Nivedita is a chartered accountant and advocate who is leading the indirect practice at Bansi Mehta and Company. Previously, she was worked with Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan for over 8 years. She provides litigation support as well as has successfully represented clients before tribunal and other judicial and quasi-judicial forums. She advised clients on wide spectrum of tax and allied laws, including GST, service tax, central excise, VAT, CST, customs, and foreign trade policy. She handles GST advisory. She played a important role in guiding several clients through their GST transition, offering end-to-end support and procedural and substantial legal matters. She has a big introduction actually. I am giving in short the important points. She also drafted representations on behalf of the K-industry associations, raising and addressing critical issues under the GST regime. She's a feature speaker at Tax Sutra seminar on GST portal on real estate. She contributed WOW series by ICI on issues related to GST input tax credit. She presented at the Sky High Symposium for the Women Members Empowerment Committee of ICI. With this brief introduction, I request CA Lodaji to give and CA Kailaji to give a small memento on behalf of JB Nagar State Surplus.
Yes.
Hi everyone. I know it's been a grueling morning and people are already rapid and today. So I'll try to keep the session as interactive as possible. I hope that it is not very monologues. Then आप सुन के मेरे से बोर हो जाएं. Okay. So first thing I want to as the session progresses, anybody who has any questions can raise hands in the middle of the session or can ask any questions while the session is on to make the session as interactive as possible. Okay. Second, my core practice is in advisory and litigation. I don't really file GST returns. So if anybody from the audience wants to add anything from the return point of side, when I'm speaking on a particular topic, I'm happy to hear your experience on that aspect as well. Okay. So with that, I'll start my session. So basically, I try to keep relevant topics on the GST. मतलब ITC में अभी क्या है? GST में currently ITC states चल रहे हैं. I try to take up those topics, but before delving into those topics, I give a brief primer on the provisions related to input tax credit. Okay. Now, what is the concept of GST or value-added tax? So, world over, GST is known as value-added tax in India because we already had a tax known as value-added tax. When we introduced GST, we have named it as goods and services tax. Now, what happens in this is that at every value addition stage, you are paying tax. So supposing you are a manufacturer of clothes, you manufacturer of t-shirts. So you purchase fabric. On purchase of fabric at 100 rupees, you pay GST of 18 rupees. So you have purchased fabric for 100 plus 18 rupees, 118 rupees. Now you are manufacturing a t-shirt using that fabric. When you are selling the t-shirt, you are selling the t-shirt at 200 rupees. On the 200 rupees, the GST is paid again 18%, so 36 rupees. Now, when you're going to pay this tax of 36 rupees to the government, you will collect 200 plus 36 from the buyer. So the buyer who buys the t-shirt will pay you 236 rupees. 200 is towards your base value. 36 is towards the GST. Now, instead of defaulting the entire amount of 36 as tax to the government, what you can do is that the ITC of 18 rupees or the GST of 18 rupees that you paid on the fabric, that you can let off. So in 36 rupees, you can take credit of 18 rupees of GST that you have incurred on your purchase side, and the remaining amount only you have to pay in tax to the government. So in this case, 36 minus 18 will come to 18. 18 is paid in cash to the government. Okay. So the idea of GST is that whatever purchases you make on which you pay GST, on that you take the credit. And then on sales side, whatever GST you pay, you first offset this credit from the remaining amount you pay the GST in cash to the government. Is that clear to everyone over here? I think everyone understands the concept of IDC anyway. Okay. Now, under GST, there are conditions for taking input tax credit. One condition is that you should have the relevant documents to take the credit. So, if credit is being taken on tax invoice, you should have the tax invoice available with you. If credit is being taken on bill of entry, you should have the bill of entry available with you, and so on and so forth. So, that's one condition for taking credit under GST. The second condition is that these documents should reflect the returns which is being filed by the supplier. So if you are taking credit on a particular document, the supplier should file the document on his GST return, and then that should be reflected in your GST too. We'll well see more on that as and when we come to the respective topic. Okay. The third is that you should be in receipt of the goods or services or both. Okay. So if you are taking credit on a particular good or particular service, you should have received. The fourth is that whatever credits you are taking, the GST of the sale amount should have actually been paid by the supplier to the government. Okay. So it is not enough that you pay the tax to the supplier, you also have to ensure that the tax is actually being deposited by the supplier to the government. If the tax is not being deposited by the supplier to the government, then even though you may be bona fide and you may have paid the tax to the supplier, you will not be eligible for the credit. Okay. And the fourth is that there is some time limit. You have to take the credit within the stipulated time limit. These are broad contours for taking input tax credit under GST. Okay. Now there is another section under GST which says that even if you have fulfilled all of these conditions for taking the credit, yet there are certain goods or services on which we will specifically regard the credit. So even though it is in the course of furtherance of business, you have used in your business only, and all the conditions for taking of credit is being fulfilled, yet for certain supplies, government is specifically regarding the credit. For example, food and beverages. So government is saying that maybe these food and beverages have been bought for some client or employees in the course of furtherance of business, but yet for food and beverages, we will not allow the credit. Insurance. Government is saying for insurance, we will not allow the credit. So there is a list of specific services under section 17 where the government will not allow the credits even if it is in the course of furtherance of business. So this is the broad contours for the tenets of GST. Okay. Now I understand that everybody over here would already be filing GST returns. So they would basically understand these basic or broad contours. Okay. I am trying to touch upon two topics which where industry is facing an issue under GST currently. जहाँ पे credit लेने में कुछ ना कुछ difficulty हो रहा है from either because of some judgment that has come or because of the departmental practice. So live issues जो ITC में लोग face कर रहे हैं, those are the issues that I'm going to take up with. Okay. So the first issue that I want to touch upon is ITC on the basis of TR system. So normally when you pay customs duty at the time of import, what document are you filing? You're filing bill of entry. So when you're importing some goods, you're filing bill of entry, and on the basis of that bill of entry, you're taking the input tax credit. Okay. Now sometimes what happens is that at a later point of time, you realize that you have short paid the credit. You've short paid the GST amount. So the IDC amount that you should have paid at the time of import, supposing you paid it at the rate of 5%. Later on, you realize that GST was actually payable at the rate of 18%. So the differential 13%, how would you pay? Now, reassessment of bill of entry and the customs is quite difficult. So what people used to do as a practical measure was pay the remaining amount of GST with the help of a TRP itself. Okay. Now in pre-GST regime, people were taking credit on the basis of TRP allowance, and there were both students also, which was allowing taking this credit on the basis of TRP allowance. However, because of the wordings of the provisions of the GST regime, there is some difficulty in taking credit on the basis of these TRP allowance. Is anybody over here familiar with the concept of TRP allowance? Okay. So see, what does section 16 say? Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, no registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any supply of goods or services of both to him, unless he is in possession of a tax invoice or debit note issued by the supplier or such other tax paying documents as may be prescribed. So they say that there would be some specific documents which we will prescribe, and only on the basis of those documents we should be taking the credit. Now, the rule says that what are these documents? The input tax credit shall be availed on the basis of the following documents, namely a bill of entry or any other similar document prescribed under the Customs Act. Thereunder, for the assessment of integrated tax and imports. So they say either bill of entry or any other document which you are using under customs for assessment of integrated tax. Okay. Now, the problem is that assessment under Customs Act is happening on the basis of bill of entry. TIF Salan is not a document on the basis of which an assessment is being made under the Customs Act. Because of which the department is denying the credit on the basis of the TIF Salan. The department contends that TIF Salan is only a document which shows that you have made payment of certain tax. Unlike a bill of entry where the entire assessment is done and all the details of the assessment are given, in a TIF Salan, those details are not available. Okay? So they are denying the input tax credit on this. Now there is a circular in the GST also which is saying that credit on this will not be available. And there was an advance ruling that was filed before the Tamil Nadu Advance Ruling Authority. Both the AAR and the triple AR have said that credit on this will not be raised. Okay. And there is also a writ petition before the Madras High Court where it is being argued that look, tax is bona fidely being paid. Actually, tax is legitimately paid. All the substantive conditions for taking the credit is eligible, and all the conditions have been satisfied. So, just for these procedural formalities, do not deny the credit. Go with the ease of doing of business, and just because of the nomenclature of the document, credit should not be denied. Okay. Considering that this is not a live issue with many of you are facing, I'm not going into a lot of details of this issue. Okay. Now, there is one thing that I want to highlight that this is a very big issue that exporters and importers are facing under GST. But I feel that this issue will be done away with respect from 1st November this year, because now under customs the government is allowing you to voluntarily revise your bill of entry post clearance. So what was happening till date? Till date, when you had imported certain goods, when you wanted to pay the additional amount of tax, it was very difficult and Herculean process to get your bill of entry reassessed. So in that case, people used to order TRC Salan because that was easy. But now, with this new introduction of this voluntary revision of bill of entry post clearance of that come from this budget itself, the government is saying that voluntarily, who photo you can revise your bill of entry, and they've given a very simple process to do it. Now that the government has given a very simple process to do it, then probably SSAs will not have to resort to the TRC Salan in most cases. And if they would not have to resort to the TRC Salan, then at least for the future, this issue may be solved. But we have to see how this new provision pans out, because whether this so supposing you had paid GST of 5 rupees at the time of import, post clearance you have paid an additional amount of 30 rupees. Whether that 30 rupees will reflect in the GST at 2 of the recipient or not, etc. That we have to do. That we have to see as time passes by. Okay. So it's something very new. It's only been introduced 18 years ago. So we do not have any live experience on how this will work. So once it starts working, we can see actually how you are being eligible for medical. Now the second issue on the GST is ITC on leasehold land and construction. What's really allowed? So what is the issue over here? In the western belt, especially Maharashtra and Gujarat, people are taking land on long-term lease from MIDC, CIDC, etc. So land may be taken for 99 years, on these from MIDC or from GIC. Okay. And for that, the assessing of taking the land to lease is giving some consideration to MIDC or GIC. Okay. Currently, as on date, MIDC and GIDC is charging GST on the consideration and being charged from the recipient. So initially, when GST had come in, MIDC was not charging any GST on this consideration. But then there was a GST investigation on MIDC itself. And after that, MIDC started collecting GST on the leasehold rent that they were collecting from the recipient. Now, but the question that arose was that, okay, MIDC is going to collect this GST on this rent. We don't have any legal challenge it because MIDC is a government authority. If they are asking, you have to give, otherwise they will not give the land on GST. Right? In such a case, will you be eligible for the credit of the GST that you are paying to MIDC? That's the issue. Okay. Now, why is this issue there? There is one particular section under section 17 which denies credit on certain situations. What does the section say? Section 17(5)(d). Credit should not be available on goods and services received by the taxable person for construction of an immovable property on his own account, including when the goods and services are used in the course of furtherance of business. So basically, section 17(5)(d) is saying credit will not be available on goods and services received by a taxable person for construction of an immovable property. Okay. Now, this leasehold land that you're taking, on that you're going to construct your factory premise. Right? Everybody who's taking these land on these will most likely be constructing some type of building, office premise, or factory premise. So there will definitely be construction of an immovable property. So to that extent, you will always qualify over here for construction of an immovable property. Now the question is that whether this lease rent that we have paid to MIDC, does that qualify the service required for construction of an immovable property? Is everyone clear on the controversy? The controversy here is that whether leasehold land is a service that is required for construction of an immovable property. Okay. Now there are two ways of looking at it. One is that this provision should be very narrowly construed. Okay. GST generally allows credit on all goods and services. Exception is very few and narrow. When the general scheme of the act to allow credit, then the disallowance should be read very narrowly. So therefore, in this case, steel, cement, brick, architectural services, interior design services directly used for construction of a immovable property, definitely credit will not be available. But all indirect services, for example, security guard services, manpower services, because when this construction is going on, then there will obviously be security all around. Okay. So the security guard services, when the security guard is securing that site, that will not really a service used for construction because that is really actually the construction of immovable property. So over there, input tax credit should not be given. Okay. So that's one interpretation. Extending the principle to leasehold land also, the leasehold land has not really been taken for construction of an immovable property. That land has been taken so that they can, run a factory on that building. So the intent of taking the land is not to construct something on the land, but to, run a factory on that particular land. So that particular leasehold rent that we are paying on that land is not for construction, but for undertaking some business. So very indirect approximately, and credit should not be deniable is what the proposition was. So the department will never take an average interpretation. So sir, there is a BBCI investigation that is going on. There are some people who have taken input tax credit on this land, and the department is denying it to them. So at least in Maharashtra currently, there is a very active BBCI investigation going on this issue. So essentially, have been paying the GST to MIDC and then they've been taking the credit by saying that this will not qualify under 17(5)(d). This restriction of 17(5)(d) should not apply and it should be abolished. But department says that no, it will not. It will apply. This restriction will apply and it will not be available. And very big Fortune 500 companies are all under the radar of the GST authorities on this. If you are not be aware, there is already an issue going on of applicability of GST or assignment of leasehold rights and land. Is anyone aware of that issue? Yeah. So what was happening was till date and nobody was paying GST on assignment of leasehold rights and land. What had happened over there was that in the pre-GST regime, that was not taxable under service tax. So when everybody moved to the GST regime, nobody realized that there would be a GST liability. Okay. Then suddenly, I think in 2021, the department realized that this could be a taxable supply. They took the data from MIDC and all transactions of assignment of leasehold rights and land, they issued a blanket showroom notices. So there was a huge revenue potential for the department. Now, whether GST would be leviable on assignment of leasehold rights of land, that itself was under challenge. And recently, the Gujarat High Court has given a positive ruling over there. So in Gujarat, we have a positive ruling on assignment of leasehold rights in land. In Maharashtra, we don't have any ruling currently. Now this Gujarat incident has also gone up to the Supreme Court, and we are not sure what the Supreme Court is going to say. I drafted the writ petition, but I feel that the Supreme Court is going to reverse it. Okay. Now in that situation, when
Was land. That's done.
yeah,
That is leasehold land.
yes,
Converted into freehold land.
okay,
I have started construction.
yes,
Your material will come. Your land, etc. Is and will do forward. We got from.
so that's it. That's what we are discussing actually. So material of your purchasing, sir, you will not be eligible for credit. Okay. But leasehold rent, according to me, you should be eligible for credit. Department is denying the same in the state of Maharashtra, but according to me, credit should be available.
Yeah.
Okay. You can give your facts offline in more detail, and I'll explain it to you in more detail that I need to go into. So coming back to this issue of assignment of leasehold rights and land. Now the issue is so it's a double-edged sword. If you don't pay GST on assignment of leasehold rights on land, then department is coming. If you do end up paying GST on assignment of leasehold rights in land, then what is happening is that the recipient is not eligible for credit because this GST that you're paying on leasehold land for assignment of leasehold land, then the department is saying it's a service towards construction of immovable property. So there again they are denying the credit. Okay, so yes.
We are making a cold storage. It will be classified as plant machinery.
So if you make a cold storage, then you can try and classify it as a plant and machinery. If you are able to classify it as a plant and machinery, then you will be out of this. Okay. For that issue, there is a separate litigation altogether that's going on in the case of safari retreats. So in case of safari retreats, the question was whether a mall could qualify as plant and machinery. There, the Supreme Court said yes, this can qualify as plant and machinery. So there we had some positive ruling from the Supreme Court side. Going with that judgment alone, one could say that cold storage will also qualify as plant and machinery. But after that, there will be an amendment in that act itself in this budget. Okay. So we have to look at your cold storage facility. If you are able to see that your cold storage facility qualifies as a plant and machinery, then yes, you'll be out of this rules. Now with this issue, some authority had filed an advance ruling before the Gujarat Advance Ruling Authority. Now, one thing on the common issues people should be aware about is that our Advance Ruling Authority is extremely biased towards the revenue. Okay, most of them are officers from the state officers or central officers from the GST regime, and they have a very revenue bent of money. Okay, so whatever question you pose, mostly they don't try to understand the legal arguments at all, and they will give a very adverse ruling. So in our profession, we call that now authority of advanced ruling and the authority of adverse ruling. Because all rulings are always adverse. Okay. Now if you look at the judgment, you'll be just surprised as to how bad the judgment is. Now respecting this judgment, what was happening was that somebody was taking land on lease and paying monthly rent on a particular land. Okay. Now monthly rent you're paying on the monthly rent you are paying GST. Now for the first year went in construction of a particular building. Okay. So year one went in construction of building. From year two, the factory began to operate. Okay. So from year two, there was no construction going on. From year 2, you are carrying on your business on a particular property. The question of the assessee was that can I take the input and credit of the these rents I'm paying in year 1? Because in year 1, I'm also undertaking some construction on this particular land. The government said no. In year 1, when you are constructing an immovable property on which credit is denied in the section 25 CMD. So they said that you will not be eligible for credit. The applicant said that okay, fair enough. Year 1, I will not be eligible for credit. What about year 2, when the construction stops and are actually undertaking business? In year 2, actually the land is not being used for construction at all. So post construction, if you're paying some rent, what do you think? What you should be get the credit or not? Authority said that no. Once the land has been used for construction, then never in the lifetime will you be eligible for credit. Now, how absurd that does that sound, right? That's very absurd. That's after construction, when you're paying some rent, they're saying it is being used for construction, there is an annual payment. This is a very clear that there could be a situation where I'm undertaking repair and maintenance on my particular property. Okay? I'm not undertaking any particular construction, just some painting or some small civil work. There you may be eligible for credit. The advanced authority said that no, even that to qualify for construction, and credit in that application also will not be allowed. Now, GST Act itself says that when where repairs and maintenance of carpet lights, then it qualifies construction. So, in case of carpet lighting and repairs and maintenance expense, it is still a slightly different. But if you are not even capitalizing, then to say that credit will not be eligible is just finally it's not even possible. Okay? And the fourth point of the assessing was arguing. Again, a very good point. Nuanced argument in the assessing, right? Assessing was saying, look, there's a 10-acre land. I am undertaking construction only on 1 acre of land. 9 acres of land is vacant. So you should deny it for it a credit only on that 1 acre of land, not on that 9 acres of land. Right? So the assessing was saying that on 1 acre of land, you deny me credit. But for the remaining 9 acres of land, do not deny me credit. Advanced ruling authority, so irrational. They obviously deny the credit for all the 10 acres of land. Okay? So these are very nuanced arguments that assessors are taking. These arguments, in my opinion, will only side for the GST, which is going to be formed from December, or for the high courts. High courts are very rational, high courts are very reasonable, they understand legal arguments, and they give legal answers to questions also. Okay? But advanced ruling authorities are really, really bad. And this type of situation, you should never go for advanced ruling at all. Okay. So I have only tried one advanced ruling in the last 8-9 years. And that too, advanced ruling is fine when you want to win competition. Competition is paying GST on 5%, I'm paying GST on 18%. I feel that I'm the one whose business is losing out because I'm the one who's doing the correct GST practice. Competition is doing incorrect practice by charging 5%, but then they are doing. So then I put a file as advanced ruling, and they said that no, 18% is only eligible. Once the advanced ruling comes, the competition says, oh no, maybe for GST. So जैसे advanced ruling आता है, GST authority goes to the competition. Honestly, I'm literally speaking, advanced ruling से किसी चीज का use करना सही है. Advanced ruling should not be used for your own case at all. You will never get a quality judgment. So we have tried at least 20 or 30 times in my lifetime of GST practice, I have told clients not to buy advanced ruling because it becomes very prejudicial. And the other problem with advanced rulings is that it's only applicable in particular state. In some cases, we have seen that we find advanced ruling in 3 different states for the same authority. 3 और हमारे लिए 3 अलग-अलग चीजें होती हैं. मतलब आप 3 स्टेट में 3 अलग-अलग प्रैक्टिस करो because advanced ruling authorities को पता ही नहीं होता क्या बोल रहे हैं. So it's like a big problem. So I then go to the issue again in one of the anti-one example that I'm going to take in the later slides. But yeah, this issue is like ongoing for आपको एक client है जो who's going to undertake construction on an leasehold property. So you should be careful of this spending over there. Okay. Any question here? Now, this is again very technical issue. Honestly, I'll just finish this one only. ITC and bank Maida for shared by company. So there are 2 issues over here that we are facing. Okay, I'll first tell the issue. Companies are not to IPO. company is going to list its company going to list on the stock exchange. At the time of listing, company बहुत सारे खर्चे incur करता है. Company hired an investment banker, a valuer, and so many other people. Like legal due diligence होता है, financial due diligence होता है. There are so many things that happen before the listing of the company on the stock exchange. Okay. Now the question of the company is that when I'm listing my company on the stock exchange, will I be eligible of credit of the expenses that I have incurred at the time of listing? So all of these GST that I have paid to investment bankers and to chartered accountants and to valuers, etc., उसमें मुझे credit मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? Now why does this question arise? GST says under the GST Act, the provision says that GST will be eligible on any goods and services received in the course of furtherance of business. So undertaking an IPO is definitely for the furtherance of your business में तो business बढ़ाना है. उसके लिए तुमको financing चाहिए, उसके लिए तुम्हें funding चाहिए, and that is why you go to the IPO market. You want to, nobody is going to deny the fact that you are going to the IPO market only because you want to expand your business. You want your business to reach new heights. Okay. So to that extent, everybody agrees that this IPO is happening in the course of furtherance of business. The other issue that people face is that so GST में credit मिलता है goods और services, right? Securities is classified neither as a goods nor as a service under GST Act. ठीक है? So GST में credit मिल रहा है goods और services का, anything other than goods and services credit नहीं मिलता है. So securities, by the definition of goods and services under GST, security qualifies neither as a good nor as a service. So the GST department says that when you're going for IPO, you are issuing a security. Because the security is neither a good nor service, therefore ये सारी services की credit नहीं मिलेंगी. In my view, that view is patently wrong. Because इतना narrow one-to-one implementation करने का कोई requirement नहीं है. Okay? It is not a case of transaction and security. It is not a case जहाँ पे तुम्हारा treasury department market में जाके XY का share खरीद रहा है और Gemini में XY का share बेच रहा है. It is a case जहाँ पे तुम अपना business बढ़ाने के लिए financing के लिए तुम IPO में जा रहे हो. उसकी वजह से तुम इतने सारे expenses incur कर रहे हो. All of these expenses are definitely expenses that are being incurred by you in the course of furtherance of business, and input tax credit of these expenses should definitely be allowed. Okay. Similarly, in case of buyback, so the name of the site is buyback. Abhi, in case of buyback, it's the same situation like issuance of first shares at the time of IPO. Instead of issuing the share, you are buying back the shares from some particular financial reason or from business. इस सिचुएशन में भी अगर तुम कोई लीगल लॉयर्स को हायर कर रहे हो, कोई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को हायर कर रहे हो, एंड उनके फीस में अगर तुम जीएसटी पे कर रहे हो, then definitely इसको credit मिलना चाहिए because these are expenses that you are incurring in the course of furtherance of business. इसको ये नहीं बोल सकते कि security related expenses इसमें credit नहीं मिलना चाहिए. Okay. Now, this is a more generic topic, it will be more relevant to the audience over here. Now, क्या हो रहा है? GST का audit हो रहा है. Okay, GST का investigation हो रहा है. Everybody over here would be well aware that the GST का audit या investigation होता है. At that point of time, जो भी department officers आते हैं, they force you to pay taxes. they जैसे कि आज का आप tax pay करो वरना कल newspaper में छाप देंगे आप tax pay करके. आज का tax pay करो वरना we get you arrested. So they use all sorts of mechanisms to make you pay the tax. Okay. Now, whatever tax you pay during the time of audit or investigation, can the recipient be eligible for the input tax credit of that tax? So supposing you pay some tax during the time of audit or investigation, and you tell the recipient कि भाई मुझे credit मिलेगा, तो तुम वो tax मुझे दे दो और तुम credit ले लो. इसमें क्या होता है? इसमें credit मिलता है या नहीं मिलता है? तो इसमें दो सिचुएशन है. ओके. जीएसटी में टैक्स आइडियल अंडर सेक्शन 73 पे होता है या अंडर सेक्शन 74 पे होता है. 73 is a case जहां पर कोई बोनाफाइड टैक्स पे नहीं किया था. They did not have a fraudulent or a malified intent. 74 is a case जहां पे इंसान ने टैक्स पे नहीं किया था and they had a bonafide or sorry they had a malified or fraudulent intent. मतलब उसको पता था टैक्स पेएबल है फिर भी वो जानबूझ के टैक्स पे नहीं कर रहे थे. तो वो सारे केस 74 में आते हैं और सारे बोनाफाइड के केस 73 में आते हैं. अभी डिपार्टमेंट जब भी आपके ऊपर नोटिस इशू करेगा या आपसे इन्वेस्टिगेशन या ऑडिट करेगा, इन आई सीन 70% ऑफ द केसेस डिपार्टमेंट स्टार्ट विद द assumption कि आपका केस तो मैलिफाइड का ही है, आपको फ्रॉडुलेंट ही है, कोई यहाँ पे बोनाफाइड है ही नहीं, मतलब किसी का भी बाय मिस्टेक भी कुछ मिस आउट होता ही नहीं है, सब लोग जानबूझ के छोड़, ओके। तो ये तो डिपार्टमेंट का बेस केस होता है इन दिस आर्ट ऑर्डर इन्वेस्टिगेशन। एंड सेक्शन 75I ऑफ द जीएसटी एक्ट क्या बोलता है? Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 16 and subsection 1 of section 93, input tax credits shall not be available in respect of the following: any tax paid in accordance with the provision of section 74 in respect of any period up to financial year 2024. तो ये सेक्शन होता है कि अगर तुमने कोई भी टैक्स 74 के अंदर पे किया है तो उसका इनकम टैक्स क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि तुम्हारा फ्रॉडुलेंट इंटेंट था, तुम जानबूझ के टैक्स में लेके थे, तुम अगर आज 24 में टैक्स पे करोगे तो तुम्हें क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, ओके। एंड फिर ना कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग रूल क्या कहते हैं? नो इनकम टैक्स क्रेडिट shall be availed by a registered person in respect of any tax that has been paid in pursuance of any order where any demand has been confirmed on account of any fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of tax under section 70. Okay. So the section that the rule is saying if any tax is being paid in the section 74, then credit will not be eligible to the rest. So see, now there are two ways of going about it. Number one is that you challenge and litigate and you say that this was not a fraudulent intent. It is not a section 74 demand at all. It's actually a section 73 demand. And when it is a section 73 demand, then you cannot deny me the credit. I am eligible for credit because the restriction is only for section 74 situations. Okay. And in 9 out of 10 cases, court will give you relief and say it is not a section 74 demand, it should be a section 73 demand. So इसमें तो बहुत इजीली रिलीज कोर्ट की तरफ से मिलता है, so that's one way of going about it.
How to prove that? It's everything comes up.
Sir, supposing आपने अपने रिटर्न पे डिस्क्लोज किया है, फिर लिस्टेड कंपनी आपको फाइनेंशियल्स में डिस्क्लोज किया, सॉरी नहीं सर, it may be again, for example sir, I give you an example. अभी सर एक फ्लेवर्ड मिल्क के ऊपर इशू चलते हैं, फ्लेवर्ड मिल्क है, whether flavored milk में 5% GST लगेगा नहीं, whether flavored milk में 18% GST लगेगा, उस पे वो चल रहा है। flavored milk का सर जो भी डिमांड डिपार्टमेंट इशू किया है सबको 74 पे इशू किया है। सर जब भी कोर्ट में जाएगा, whenever the high court or supreme court is hearing, what they will simply say is that this is an interpretation issue. Whether flavored milk will be taxable at 5% or whether flavored milk will be taxable at 18% is a pure question of law. जब यहाँ पे interpretation issue involved है, then it's a question of law. And where you know two particular views are possible, then when two particular views are possible and people have reason to believe the 5% will taxable there, then you cannot say it's fraudulent intent there, and then you cannot tax the 74, then you have to tax the 70. Okay, so this is one case जहाँ बहुत easily release होता है. Until the party is actually able to show some problems of material to show कि ये तो fraudulent नहीं था. तब तक कोर्ट बिलीव्स नहीं fraudulent नहीं होना था ऐसा नहीं केस.
पीरियड का भी जो गैप है 23-24 तक
I come back. It's very useful. Yeah, these section में हो गया है, मतलब हमने कोई हो गया उसके बाद.
Okay.
20 के बाद. Yeah.
And we are paying ITT, we don't know the data.
तो मुझे लगता है उन्होंने भी पेइंग करके करनी चाहिए और करने को.
When we are
Regularly when you paying tax, then you have to do something, right? जब आप सप्लायर को टैक्स पे करते हो, वो गवर्नमेंट को पे करता है, तो इट इज नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द ऑडिट इन्वेस्टिगेशन, इट इज द नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ
maybe after your research, but the debit credit.
So then we should definitely find out where the supplier statements are.
After this, this, we could realize that
But we should offline to communicate with the supplier taking nails.
supplier may not tell you,
Then you won't pay the tax to the supplier. You have to protect your business interest. आप tax भी नहीं करो, आप credit भी ना मिले, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए आपको. So if you are the recipient, if you think that the supplier is not telling you 74 का case है, then in that case you should not pay tax to supplier.
when they take 64 will come to picture.
But so normally जब ये litigated cases होता है, तो avoid 16 is the provision for time limit of credit. Because GST Act में देखो time limit for taking credit only. Okay. If you are not taking credit within the time limit, then you will be debarred from taking credit forever. So जब भी इस तरह की कंटेंशन इशू होता है, हम सबको बोलते हैं you avail the credit and you keep it in your accounts. Do not utilize it. आप avail करके books में रख लो, utilize मत करो. Once you have clarity whether you can utilize or not, then only you utilize. Because wrongful availment में कोई भी interest implications नहीं है. Wrongful utilization में interest implications है. So in every case where there is some litigation, essentially take a stand of availing the credit and then keeping it like that, and they utilize at a later point in time, and they have no time. इस केस में भी अगर आपको बाय मतलब आपको अगर पे करना ही पड़ गया है 74 वाली, तो आप पे करो पर आप क्रेडिट मत लो. Once you know कि 74 वाली है, तो आप तो उसके हिसाब से करें. मेरे स्कूल में तो इस टाइप की सिचुएशन में यूज्ड टू नॉट पे टू द आर अबाउट एंड टू द कार इज टेलिंग यू दैट व्हेन इट्स 74 also
RCM paid on 73.
sir RCM paid on 73 would be eligible for the credit.
And giving
Sir, so there is a good possible that the time limit on section 64 will not apply in this house because I mean, the words even is 15 for us and that we can take a view that RCM is applied to the
it's available for taking.
So, sir, basically, if you are RCM, you are taking credit in the list of self-imposed. Okay. Now, supposing 2021 का कोई supply है, जिसका हमने GST नहीं पे किया है, उससे अगर आप RCM supply पे आप सिर्फ credit पे, आप सिर्फ GST पे करते हो, तो you will issue the self-imposed today.
The self-interest, how to afford taking now.
This way, any other numbers.
Already accounted with payment and.
Sir, payment may be counted back करेंगे, but GST का payment करना पड़ेगा. So you can account it as an expense today. Then issue a self-invoice under GST today, and because the self-invoice is dated on today's date, therefore you can say that section 15 for time limit will not apply immediately.
Expense should be reversed. It is already taken in graduate.
So for example, legal expense, आप किसी lawyer को 1 लाख रुपए दो, इसमें GST आता है. 1 लाख को फिर आप expense आप मार दिए कि 20 बनने 1 लाख ऊपर आप 18,000 की सब GST आज पे करोगे. तो 18,000 की इसका एक्सपेंस जो है, I mean 18,000 अगर आपको क्रेडिट मिलता है तो आपको एक्सपेंस मारने का रिक्वायरमेंट ही नहीं है. पर अगर आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है तो आप एक्सपेंस इस साल अपनी मुंह में मार लीजिए. So it will account for expense for this year. So 1 lakh rupees will go in that for itself. We are not saying that the supply is not inquiring credit anyone. We are simply saying that the self-imposed supply has been issued today, and on the basis of the self-imposed issued today for the supply that has, been given in 2021, you will get the credit. Are you clear, sir? So now we have this provision. What I was trying to say is that if you credit मिलता है, 74 को credit नहीं मिलता. Okay. Now, there is one thing. The rule says that no input tax credit shall be agreed by a registered person in respect of any tax that is being paid in fulfillment of any order. So the rule है, वो बोलता है कि section 74 के अंदर order आ गया, उसके बाद तो कोई tax pay किया, तो credit नहीं मिलेगा. If we read that so literally, then we can say कि 74 के अंदर show cause notice अगर आया है, तो मिलेगा किसी ने tax pay किया है, तो उसका भी credit मिल जाएगा. Because order issue नहीं हुआ है. So before the issuance of order at any stage, if you are paying the GST, then recipients should be eligible for credit. This restriction under section 17(5) that the rule 46(3) will only apply in situation where the order has been issued. If order has not been issued and notice has still been issued under section 74, still you can take a position or you can take an argument that credit will be eligible. It is litigated, the department will definitely litigate, but as we just said on the plain reading of the provision level, you have a good case. Yes.
Year 74, whenever the tax liability added, this is through DRC 03.
Yes.
In those cases, there is no question of it.
So literally, if you look legally and if you read the plain text of the GST Act and the GST rules alone, they don't deny input tax credit if GST is paid on the basis of a DRC 03. Okay? So legally speaking, DRC 03 चालान से भी जो आप tax pay कर रहे हो, उसका आपको credit मिलना चाहिए. Now practically what happens is that whatever tax you pay to DRC 03, that is not getting auto-populated in your GST 2B return. Because it is not getting auto-populated in your GST 2B return, therefore there is a mismatch report that occurs and you get a notice. So that's the problem. If that is really the case, then you have to try to note and explain that some taxes have been paid to DRC 0 which is not coming in DRC 0 in GST 2B because of system restriction. या फिर system का limitation है. आईटी सिर्फ वो भी 2B में आना चाहिए. आपका सिस्टम ऐसा डिजाइन नहीं है कि वो 2B में नहीं आ रहा है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. So I am within the contours of the law and taking the credit. Your system is not equipped to give me the credit. So you enhance your system to include that amount in the GST 2B. Don't come and deny me the credit. That is the legal position. Practical position is that if possible, don't pay the tax to DRC GST Challan. Pay the tax to DST schedule. Okay? So पूरी फिर आर्थिक लायबिलिटी है इससे आप टैक्स पे करना भूल गए हो. तो अगर आप 2 या 3 साल बाद पे कर रहे हो तो सीबी के थ्रू ही पे करो, डीआरसी जीरोसी के थ्रू पे मत करो. Now उसका प्रैक्टिकल चैलेंज क्या आता है? डीएससी डिपार्टमेंट वांट्स टू शो दैट इतना उनकी तरफ से रिकवरी हुआ है. उनको अपने रेवेन्यू टारगेट दिखाना होता है. तो डीआरसी जीरोसी के थ्रू जब आप पे करते हो ना तो अपने स्पेसिफिक रेवेन्यू टारगेट को पिन पॉइंट या मैप कर पाते हो कि देखो इतना जितना भी पेमेंट हुआ है सब तो मेरे एफर्ट्स पे हुआ है. Whereas जब GST 3 में पेमेंट करते हो ना वो आपके रेगुलर पेमेंट्स के साथ इंक्लूड हो जाता है. तो उनको अपने ऑफिसर्स को जाकर प्रूव करना कि उन्होंने एक्चुअली इतना करेक्शन किया है वो डिफिकल्ट होता है. तो प्रैक्टिकली ऑडिट के टाइम पे रजिस्ट्रेशन के टाइम पे डिपार्टमेंट आपको बहुत फोर्स करेगा कि आपसे दूसरी की पूरी पेमेंट करें. बट इफ पॉसिबल यू शुड रेजिस्ट टाइम से पेमेंट फी.
So taking ITC on payment of tax bill is in case of RCM. Not in any other.
So in case of RCM, question of taking ITC will arise in your own hand itself. In other cases, the question would arise in the hands of the recipient. For example, I tell you, there was an investigation in the hands of one of these listed FMCG companies. So what is more all their dealers and suppliers in the chain is कि मैंने 5% में पे किया था, डिपार्टमेंट ने 12 मांगा है. Let us start to differentiate 10%. I'll collect from you, you will get the credit. So you take the credit. You pay to me and you take the credit. Now these FMCG companies, all the distributors in the chain, the FMCG company has a huge control over these distributors in the chain. So they told them that interest are going to be very okay, but let's not make the GST portion of cost. So I'll raise an additional debit from you and you take the credit on the basis of that debit. So that kind of situation also arises. Any question on this?
We are making today. And would you think that it should be 1 month from the service provided? Not that.
So because of that you pay interest, right? So when the liability under RCM is written in 2021 and you are actually paying the RCM liability today, you will be liable to discharge GST along with interest. Invoice is late and GST has been paid late, you are being penalized by that by way of interest. So GST department is getting compensated by way of interest. But how the provisions are currently voted, you can say that look, I'm already paying interest, you are voting, so the provisions are allowing me to take the credit, so I will take the credit. So I'm not saying it's a clean case and the department will not contest it. But I've seen a in the past take the credit and the department allowed the wage on it. So it's a very good. One very interesting thing that I want to point out over here is that the restriction under Section 17 only with respect to tax period of Section 74. Import से केस में लोग GST पे करते हैं, उसको मोस्टली होलसेल आज के दिन कस्टम के एक्ट के अंदर सो-कॉल्ड नोटिस हो रहा है. जो कस्टम का Section 28 जो है उसके अंदर सो-कॉल्ड नोटिस हो रहा है. If notice is being issued under customs, then you can argue, okay, now that's also a very big argument that is going on today. Then you can argue that the GST being paid at the time of importation is the duty of customs under the customs tariff act, and therefore whatever differential duty you are paying, you pay under Section 28. That notice is not under Section 74 at all. So therefore, even if it is a case of fraud, magnified, or anything else, the department may be alleging on you. If they are alleging that under Section 28 of the Customs Act, then Section 75 again, I again not apply. Okay. So अगर import का केस है और आपके ऊपर नोटिस सेक्शन 28 के अंदर है कस्टम लैंड का, तो वहाँ अगेन हम गुड केस टू से कि सेक्शन 75 आई विल नॉट अप्लाई अगर आप मैलिफाइड फ्रॉडुलेंट इंटेंशन कुछ भी आप मेरे पर रेस्ट करो डजंट
This IGST will be applicable to the
right sir. So custom there are two elements, one is basic custom duty and one is IGST. तो basic custom duty का अलग prescription है and IGST का अलग prescription है, both you have to see separately. It is possible that basic custom duty का product may be exempt but IGST still may be exempt. If IGST is eligible and for some reason you did not pay, then you can pay today and pay later. Sure.
For metro projects, it's still not paid for public benefit, and it is funded by international bank. Whether we should go for mandate project import concession, mandate
Sir, we can discuss that offline, वो इतने में off topic हो जाएगा. We can discuss offline, no problem. Now the next question is immovable property. Like we have seen in the previous slide, input tax credit on goods and services or most of the services used for construction of an immovable property, credit was not allowed. Okay. Now, इसमें क्या problem होता है? इसमें आगे तो क्या राइट होता है कि what you're constructing, whether that qualifies as immovable property or not. Okay. So some people say that what I've constructed is a movable property, department says no, it is immovable. तो इस पे झगड़ा चलता है, इसमें प्रीटेक विधि में भी झगड़ा चल रहा था कि what is an immovable property and GST विधि में same dispute continue हो रहा है. Okay. So before going into dispute, I'm quickly taking through the proposals. Section 75 says, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 16 and subsection 1 of section 18, input tax credit shall not be available in respect of the following. Works contract service when supplied for construction of an immovable property. And these days, goods or services of both received by an actual person for construction of an immovable property. So, goods, services, works contract services, when received for construction of an immovable property, credit is not exempt. Okay. Now, what is immovable property? Immovable property have not been defined under the GST Act. Okay. So, you have to look at the definition or the meaning of the word immovable property as per general clauses Act. Or as per some other jurisprudence, or as per general common parlance understanding of the word immovable property. Now, this term immovable property has been heavily tested in the courts of law in India. Okay? Even in the pre-GST regime, what qualified as a movable or what qualified as a movable property was a matter of great scrutiny. So time and again in different judgments, in simple paper mills, in civil engineering and so on and so forth, there have been judgments claiming what is movable property and what is not. Okay. Recently, Supreme Court again took a chance to test this principle. Here, the case was that telecommunication companies were erecting telecommunication towers in different parts of the country. Okay. On this telecommunication tower, they were installing an antenna. And with the help of the telecommunication tower and the antenna, they were providing telecommunication service. Okay. Now, under the pre-GST, telecommunication regime and service tax regime, credit was available on inputs and practical goods. Okay. Now, for anyone to qualify as input or practical good, the base case was that it should always qualify as a good. अगर good होगा तो ही input या practical good हो सकता है. Okay. And for something to qualify as good, it has to be movable. It cannot be immovable. So goods by the very inherent nature are something that is movable in nature. So Supreme Court over there in that case was analyzing whether telecommunication towers can be an input or practical good. To qualify as input or practical good, whether these telecommunication towers can qualify as a good and therefore be movable or not. Okay. Now, whether the telecommunication towers is movable or not, Supreme Court held that yes, telecommunication towers are movable and hence they are goods and they allow the credit. In allowing that, they laid down a few principles to determine as to how which goods will qualify as movable and when it will qualify as immovable. Okay. So there are a few tests that they laid down. Now these tests you can apply in all your situations. Okay. The first test is a functionality test. If the article is fixed to the ground to enhance its operational efficacy and ensure stability, such property is movable. अगर nuts and bolts of article को लगा रहे हो, वो कभी भी निकाल के कहीं और लेके जा सकते हो, then it is movable. हमारे घर पे जो विंडो एयर कंडीशनर लगा होता है, डेफिनेटली वो वॉल पे फिक्स होता है, बट अगर आपको चाहिए तो यू कैन टेक इट आउट at any point of time and put it somewhere else. So the window air conditioner you put in your home satisfy the functionality there and it will be movable. Okay. Now the next test is the permanency test. If the property can be dismantled and relocated without damage, the property is considered movable. जब आप उसको निकाल के कहीं और लगाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, तो कोई substantial damage इस पर नहीं होना चाहिए. Now let's take the case of an HVAC air conditioner system, जो आपका इस तरीके का AC जो होता है जो internal wiring से पकड़ रखता है. अभी HVAC में there are outlets or vents and there are cables running inside the whole walls. HVAC को without substantial damage move करना possible नहीं. It's not like a window air conditioner को निकाल के कहीं और लगा दिया. It's not like that in the case of HVAC. So HVAC is like a permanent structure that has become part of the building itself. It cannot be removed without damage. So then, in case of HVAC air conditioner, the permanency test fails and it will qualify as an immovable. Okay. Therefore, HVAC के case में once installed, we cannot say it's movable. The next is the marketability test. It says if the property can be removed and sold in the market, this is considered movable. Next is intended of the parties. If it is intended as a permanent addition to immovable property, it is movable. So here is बोलते हैं something actually may be movable, but अगर आप उसको permanently लगा के रखे हुए हैं, you don't intend to move it at all. अब वो next साल आपके वहीं पे वैसे ही लगा रहेगा. Then it is part of the immovable structure only. It is not movable. Okay. The next is nature of annexation, and the next is object of annexation. Similar to the test that we already discussed. So based on these tests, you have to check whether something is movable or immovable. अभी क्या होता है मशीन्स को आप कभी अर्थ पे फाउंडेशन के हेल्प से लगाते हो. मशीन को जब अर्थ पे फाउंडेशन के हेल्प से लगाते हो, बट वो मशीन को कभी भी निकाल के कहीं और लेके जा सकते हो. Then you can say that the machine is movable even if it is installed on a foundation and is attached to the earth. बहुत बार डिपार्टमेंट हमें बोलता है कि ये मशीन तो आपके सर्किल से इसमें लगा रखा है कि इट इज परमानेंटली अटैच्ड टू द अर्थ एंड इसका क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. Prefabricated buildings. So nowadays there we have the concept of prefabricated buildings. जो pre-fitted buildings फैक्ट्री में बन के आता है, साइट पे इंस्टॉल हो जाता है, उस पे क्रेडिट मिलेगा या नहीं मिलेगा. In those cases where the prefabricated building can easily be uninstalled and installed at the location at any point of time. Again, maybe it looks like an immovable structure to the eye. Okay, common parlance में maybe वो immovable consider, but जब वो easily uninstall होकर कहीं और install हो सकता है, then it definitely satisfies these tests and it will qualify as a movable property. Okay. So Supreme Court in case of Bharti Airtel in the pre-case regime said that telecommunication towers are movable and credit will be available. Okay. Now, same dispute GST regime में भी चल रहा था. GST regime में भी telecommunication towers पे credit denial हुआ. Okay. Now, Delhi High Court, relying on the judgment of the Supreme Court in the pre-GST regime, held that even under GST regime, credit will only be denied when goods or services are used for construction of an immovable property. जब telecommunication towers immovable है ही नहीं, जब telecommunication towers movable है, then in that case, वो section 75C and D में base case में ही नहीं आ रहा है, and even under GST, credit will be available. So pre-GST regime में भी positive judgment है और उसको follow करते हुए दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने GST regime में भी positive judgment दिया है. They are saying telecommunication tower nuts and bolts से fixed होता है, कभी भी निकाल के कहीं और install कर सकते हैं, तो it is movable ही. Okay. I want to point out कि GST regime में जो plant and machinery का definition है ना, plant and machinery की definition से telecommunication towers excluded था. So they were saying that telecommunication towers does not qualify as plant and machinery, which shows that the lawmakers at the time of making the law did not want to give the credit on telecommunication towers. In spite of that, the court held that You don't even need to go to the definition of transient machinery, wherein at the outset itself of construction of an immovable property phase के अंदर ही immovable property के अंदर ही सब qualify नहीं हो रहा है, then you don't need to see the expression transient machinery. So simply they were saying that when telecommunication tower is not qualifying as immovable property, then section 75 का और कुछ भी part देखने का requirement नहीं है. Now this is a very positive judgment. आपके लाइन का कुछ भी ऐसा तरीके का item होगा यहाँ जहाँ पे you are not sure. After this judgment you can apply these tests and you can say that it will be available. Especially now when nuts and bolts are fixed there, etc. Then you can say that it is a movable property that it should be over.
So if you are getting services from a contractor,
Of
you are getting services from a contractor. Services
course.
from a contractor, the contractor
For a movable property.
like mentioned. So input is not.
So if that service is directly used for construction purpose and the construction is resulting in a removable property, then credit will not be available.
Of that contractor.
So उसकी इसमें exception दिया हुआ है. So if you look at section 75C, it says that works on that services then apply to construction of an immovable property, except where it is an input service, so further supply of works on that service.
Contractor will get that one.
तो subcontractor का जो works on that invoice ये होगा contractor के ऊपर, उसपे contractor को credit मिलेगा.
What about the cooperative society substantial relation? That whether the cooperative society will get the.
So there are two things. So what you are asking now is that cooperative society undertaking renovation and repairs of the structure.
Substantial.
Renovation and repairs जो देते हैं, उसपे credit मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? Okay. So two things over there. If the renovation and repairs is not capitalized.
If not, no, because in case of cooperative society, we generally expense out.
If it is not capitalized, then it will not qualify as an expression construction activity. So over here, the word uses works on their services when supplied for construction. And there is an explanation of the GST Act which says that when repairs and renovations are capitalized, only then they qualify as construction. If repairs and renovations are not capitalized at all, then it will not qualify as construction. So if repairs and renovation expenses are not capitalized, then you are anyway out. Okay. If repairs and renovation expenses are capitalized, then the problem of 75C can come. Okay. Over there also, there is one suggestion from my side. If you are collecting additional funds from all the society members for this repairs and renovations, sometimes sinking fund and all of that is not sufficient to do the repairs and renovation activity. You do additional collection of funds from the members. Okay. When you are doing the additional collection of funds from the members, after invoice sheets are your members paper, works on their services and invoice sheets are there. You are giving works on their services of repairs and renovation of the building. If you are raising an invoice works on that services of repairs and renovation, to the amount collected, to the extent of amount collected for repairs and renovations, that correlation is there. अगर वैसा आप कर पा रहे हो, then section 75C का exception will play, and who works on that service आपका actual renovation and repairs का service दे रहा है, उसका credit मिलेगा. So I have to explain that again. This says works on that service when supplied for construction of an immovable property, except where it is an input service or further supply of works on that service. जो वो contractor है Mr. X, उसने आपके ऊपर works on that services का invoice raise किया. वो सर्विसेज लेकर आपके मेंबर्स के ऊपर वापस एक इनवॉइस भेज दिया वो वर्क्स ऑन देयर सर्विसेज.
Society is giving what's not.
So members. So for the supply works on their service हो गया section 10 में. So they जो Mr. X का invoice है उसके ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा. Okay.
Mr. Jaiga.
The members को कॉपी से जाएगा, but at least to the extent of GST डाल कर Mr. X. हाँ.
But if it is not done, it's short contract invoice is not based on the invoice. Then also we can claim prices. That it costs to use.
So what are you saying? Sorry, I understand. नहीं यार, आप इन्वेस्टमेंट सर्विस के तरह इन्वॉइस रेट करके GST का मेंबर्स तो हर दोनों सिचुएशन में चार्ज कर रहे होते सर. अगर आप वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की तरह इनवॉइस नहीं रेज कर रहे नंबर के ऊपर, देन आप मेंबरशिप सर्विस की तरह इनवॉइस रेज करेंगे मेंबर्स के ऊपर। जीएसटी तो उसके लिए भी आपको लगाना होता है। तो मेंबर्स के हाथ में जीएसटी इंसिडेंस आएगा, दैट यू कैन नॉट अवॉइड। तो उस केस में मेंबर्स को तो जीएसटी पे करना ही पड़ेगा दोनों केस में। अगर मेंबर्स के हाथ में मेंबरशिप सर्विस का इनवॉइस रेज कर रहे हो तो उसका क्रेडिट जाएगा। वेयर अगर आप वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सर्विस का इनवॉइस रेज कर रहे हो, एटलीस्ट एक क्रेडिट बच जाएगा। तो 2 टाइम जीएसटी लॉस नहीं होगा, सिंगल टाइम जीएसटी लॉस होगा।
तो कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी को वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर भी गवर्नमेंट करना पड़ेगा।
यस, एंड इनवॉइस वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे रेज करना होगा।
लेकिन अभी नहीं किया है सब जो है, सबको यार मिलेगा या नहीं?
नहीं, तो फिर
नहीं, वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का सर्विस दे रहे हैं, ऐसे इनवॉइस नहीं भेज रहे हैं, आपको मिलेगा नहीं?
नहीं, पर अगर रिपेयर एडमिशन का कैपिटलाइज नहीं किया तो क्रेडिट एनी में मिल जाएगा ना। दैट द सिंपल सिचुएशन है। सिंपल सिचुएशन में रिपेयर एडमिशन कैपिटलाइज नहीं हुआ है, वहां पे इशू ही नहीं है, क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा। सिचुएशन है जहां पे कैपिटलाइज हुआ है, वहां पे कैसे टैक्स कमिंग करोगे।
Explaining this, thing, society has carried out a major renovation in the lobby area, in compound, and also in the different place. Whether that.
Again, sir, same discussion only. If there is a repair renovation expense which you are not capitalizing, credit will be available. If you are capitalizing, credit will not be available.
But accounting principle will be violating, like it's a major renovation, lift is getting replaced.
So I'm asking to violate the accounting principle, sir. If as per accounting principle, it has to be capitalized, you have to capitalize it. So if it has to be capitalized, you have to capitalize and will not be eligible for credits. But if as per accounting principle, it need not be capitalized and it can be renovation expense, then you will get the credit. I'm saying that if as per accounting principle, you need to capitalize. And there is a situation where you are collecting funds from your members also. Then in that situation, when you are giving an invoice on the members, उसमें आप अपने invoice में description वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सर्विस डालो, so that जो भी आपको खर्चा हो रहा है उसके ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट मिलता है। That's only one particular situation. अगर आपको thinking fund से आप पैसे निकाल के renovation कर रहे हो, तो उसके में there is no way to take the credit if the repair and renovation का credit capitalized.
किसी और सोलर प्लांट
Sorry.
Benefit is capitalized.
Yes.
In the slide, in section 75C and D, the GST credit has been allowed for plant machinery,
Yes.
and we are using vehicles used by the owners of the property or the contractor, as well as the but same have to be given in the GST. ITC has been denied in the GST. Why it is so?
You know, vehicles like separate restriction in section 75 investment. So there is a separate restriction on the section 70, which does not allow credit on vehicles at all. Motor vehicles में credit denied है. I will give you an example of food and beverage and insurance in the beginning, remember? There is a separate restriction on motor vehicles itself. So section 75 B में जाने का दरकार नहीं है. Section 75 B में ही credit देना है इसके ऊपर. There is another restriction after the presentation if you come, I will show the restriction also. Yes.
Even if it is capitalized furniture and everything, you can avail it. Right?
So furniture is not an immovable property.
That's true. That.
Yeah, so section 75 CD is denied only for works from the services and supplies construction of immovable. If what you are constructing does not qualify as immovable property, तब तो कोई problem यही नहीं, तब तो credit नहीं है. अगर something is being used for construction of furniture, तो कोई problem नहीं है. That's okay.
HVAC is more property, as you say, but it is also implanted.
HVAC is immovable property. I was just trying to explain the principle of immovable property. So HVAC in certain cases, HVAC qualifies standard machinery. In those cases, you will get the credit. In those cases, you will get the credit. I'm not saying that HVAC will qualify standard machinery in all cases. In cases it qualifies as standard machinery, credit will be given.
Example.
Very specific example if I want to give, I'm creating a warehouse. In that warehouse, for those goods, supposing I'm stocking perishable goods. So for the perishable goods to be, in good condition, you have to have an HVAC. So in those cases, you can definitely take the HVAC, the family of the yeah. So in those cases, you can take the credit. It totally depends, right?
you know, you said, IT and each other, by each
So it's a building, so you can so movable in nature. You can take out and you can reach for anywhere else at any point of time. It totally depends on what kind of shed it is. If the shed is movable, then credit will be available. If the shed is not movable, credit will not be available.
We are making jumbo warehouse in Bhiwandi, which consists of, 5-6 feet. We are making a wall and then we are constructing it on this.
Prefabricated building. Okay. आजकल बहुत बड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट हो गया प्रीफैब्रिकेटेड वेयरहाउस का भी अगर को प्रीफैब्रिकेटेड वेयरहाउस है जहाँ पे आपका इस तरीके का टेक्नोलॉजी यूज है जहाँ पर वेयरहाउस को कभी भी डिस्मेंटल कहीं और मैच कर सकते हो तो वो केस में क्रेडिट मिलेगा सर और अगर आपका ये ब्रिक्स एंड सीमेंट से अगर वेयरहाउस बना रहे हो तो बिल्डिंग का क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा अंदर जो शेल्फ वगैरह लगा रहे हैं उसका क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा
What is the manufacturing plant in
Sorry,
heavy manufacturing plant?
okay.
Where we can take done better sell everything. We have made a prefabricated full structure in which building is also there and some for providing the other purpose. And our auditors are saying it is a building. I am saying it is a plant and machinery. Whether it is taken as a building, still we get the credit or not.
Sir, immovable है तो क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा
Prefabricated structure, this is full prefabricated and everything established for the.
सर बट वो प्रीफैब्रिकेटेड बिल्डिंग जस्ट बिकॉज़ समथिंग इज प्रीफैब्रिकेटेड इसका मतलब नहीं है कि वो मूवेबल है
But prefabricated version, the support is there when 20 trains are going and everything.
सर वो प्रीफैब्रिकेटेड स्ट्रक्चर आप कल को जाने यहाँ पे महाराष्ट्र में बिजनेस बंद है कर्नाटक में एस्टैब्लिश करने का ये स्ट्रक्चर आप कर्नाटक ले जा सकते हैं सर
अभी तो install हो गया
अभी इंस्टॉल हो गया सर एक साल बाद आपको मंथ
yeah, definitely after like in report
अगर नटबोर्ड से इंस्टॉल है बस हम कहीं और
that is
अगर नटबोर्ड वाला स्ट्रक्चर है सर
Yeah.
then you can say it's movable in nature
it's not but our workers are there they say it's a relief and you do not get a rate.
so you can show the judgment of Bharti Executive Auditor.
So before the bills are also
So you can show the judgment of Bharti Executive Auditor. Transport technology, then you may get the credit.
same thing, same. That's right.
अब तो बिल्डिंग भी मूवेबल हो गई है ये तो काफी बिल्डिंग
सर सीमेंट स्टील वाला बिल्डिंग कोई भी मूवेबल नहीं सर ये कन्वेंशनल बिल्डिंग है नॉट मूवेबल सर सीमेंट स्टील वाला जो बिल्डिंग है दैट इज इंटेंसिव इन एट ऑल
के साथ ही
so there was also an integrity test that I showed. So integrity test में you are not intending to build a building to move it. You are intending to build a building to house their common structure only. तो वो सब केस में उनका क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा.
Can I say this is a pattern machine registered building? Because it is a apparent.
Sir, in the parliament tricks, actually Supreme Court did say that. But after that, there has been an amendment in the Finance Act this year. So now we not be able to say that the building is in the nature of planning.
But Finance Act effective earlier plant and machinery definition were other separate. Now it is plant and machinery work together.
Sir, so basically, plant and machinery, saying building and plant and machinery is not possible because the plant and machinery definition is building. There is an exception to the definition of plant and machinery that says that building cannot qualify as plant and machinery. So therefore, you cannot say that building is a plant and
But
machinery.
the same structure, the whole facilities are attached, all everything is there.
So sir, we do a very critical analysis to see what all portions are qualified as plant and machinery and what all portions qualify as civil structure of building. Civil structure of building में credit नहीं मिलता है, जो plant and machinery portion है उसपे credit मिल जाता है. तो आपके पास लाइन आइटम में वेरिफिकेशन में होना चाहिए था कि मॉनिटरिंग लैंग्वेज I think somebody was just asking about solar power generation. So this is an Andhra Pradesh High Court judgment. Okay. Here the question was that whether this whether credit can be available on setting up of the solar power plants. Okay. So if you look at the third bullet, it says that the solar modules and solar power generating system are not attached to foundation for the permanent benefit of the land or foundation. Rather, the foundation is embedded in the earth to enhance the plant's operational efficacy and stability. not to make a plant a permanent part of the land. Accordingly, it is said that the permanency test is failing and credit will be available.
Normally context of the exempted electricity is exempted.
So that is a different problem altogether. That is a separate problem. If you are using some goods or services for effecting an exempted supply,
Not electricity company, production company. They, whatever the solar electricity is generated is uploaded at the grid. Used somewhere then from the grid.
in the same state,
Makes sense.
if it is the same state, sir, then you can take it as a previous. So, sir, just to enhance, I'll just explain what sir is saying. Sir is saying that sir has set up a solar power generating system. Through the solar power in Nashik, through the solar power, sir is generating some electricity. The electricity is going to the grid. From the grid, the electricity is being wheeled to the factory of solar, maybe in Pune. Okay. So the electricity is being generated in Nashik, and then the electricity is going to Pune plant. Okay. So whatever units you are giving to the grid, assuming the same amount of units you are using in your factory. Okay. Now using those units for setting, you are manufacturing a say taxable goods. So for example, pens, pencils, etc. And those are taxable under GST. So in that case, we can say that the solar power generating system is being used for the manufacture of taxable goods and services, and therefore credit will be available. The intermediate stage में electricity exempt हो रहा है सर, उसका कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, because intermediate stage में कोई taxability या exemption देखने का requirement नहीं है, because वो within the same state है. So supply of electricity में GST taxable है या exempt है, वो देखने का इस state में इस case में requirement नहीं है. Okay, if you are supplying electricity from other state, then it would have become an exempt supply. उस case में credit का problem होगा, because it's within the same state. Then electricity neither taxable nor exempt, so then that problem is not arising. You directly see what your end product is. If your end product is taxable, then you can see that your solar power generating system is being used for manufacturing of taxable goods or services, and therefore it will be.
The state that can.
If it's within the state, that will help. If it's not within the state, it's definitely a problem, because then electricity will become supply, which will become exempt. And exempt supply is section 72 के अंदर आपको credit नहीं मिलेगा.
This particular case, what is the ultimate reason? Whether it is to supply or
So they said that this solar module, solar power generating system are inverter in nature, and therefore it will be eligible.
that's okay. Whether it is work contract or composite supply.
Not works contract, sir. For something to qualify as works contract, it has to be renewable in nature. Can I quote? Now this age-old issue, I think this issue we have been discussing since 2017 itself. For me, like, since we have discussed this so many times and kept it at the end, because we always keep talking about this issue. But I know many people from the audience will be interested in this issue who have kept this issue on this side. Okay. Can ITC be denied if the supplier doesn't pay tax? Okay. Like I was saying in the beginning of the presentation, there is a particular section under section 16 which says that notwithstanding anything contained in this section, no registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any goods or services or both from him unless the tax charged in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government, either in cash or through utilization of input tax credit. Recipient pays the tax to the supplier pays tax to the government. जब गवर्नमेंट की झोली में गिरेगा तभी गवर्नमेंट क्रेडिट देगा रेसिपिएंट को. अगर गवर्नमेंट की झोली में नहीं गिरा तो गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट गिव द क्रेडिट टू द believe me or not, believe me or not, इतना litigation हो रहा है and even very genuine players are really struggling. I'll give you an example of Swiggy. Now it's a reported judgment in Karnataka High Court. That's from taking the example. Swiggy had come to us. Swiggy in 2017 was rapidly expanding. It was a very small company. Okay. Swiggy had appointed one manpower supplier who was giving them manpower during festival season. So festival season में दिवाली वगैरह टाइम दिल्ली की जो उनसे manpower लेते हैं, they were paying GST to the manpower supplier. Now startup के केस में क्या होता है? Startup के पास इतना control system का कुछ होता ही नहीं है. They are just in expansion mode. They were paying the GST to manufacturers, they were taking the credit. They were like, they never thought if the credit denied हो सकता है उनको. Okay? What the supplier did was वो 2 साल का पूरा tax लेके they did not deposit anything to the government and they are funding. Initially the GST आया तो the systems were also not so robust. तो तुम्हें पता भी है कि redundancy की वजह से हम pay करना. Now they fled from India. Supplier cannot pay any tax to the government. Swiggy is totally bona fide. Swiggy has to कोई fault नहीं था. But the department came to Swiggy and said that look, whatever tax you pay to the supplier is not deposited into the government. You have to report the credit. Swiggy said that we will government and other things, we should show our notice and we will see what's there. The officers scheduled arrest to Swiggy overnight like 127 crores. They said that कल arrest कर देंगे आपको और अगर आपके newspaper में छाप देंगे कि Swiggy is a non-compliant company, उन्होंने 127 crore से basement किया. अब normal readers जो read करते हैं newspaper, they don't understand the nitty-gritties of these things, right? उनको लगता है कि Swiggy is a fraudulent company. The account of Swiggy called up a firm and said कि क्या करें अभी? So I will be readers from their account, right? We said that you are taking a fund. At the time of funding, अभी कोई negative place नहीं थी, you pay the tax. They paid the tax and then we went to Karnataka High Court. And Karnataka High Court said that look, the provisions might be there. The provisions can say that unless credits are not there available. But you cannot coerce overnight and you cannot collect the tax unduly like this. So they asked him to refund and they asked him to issue a so-called notice. And they told him go by the due process of law, deny the credit if you want to, but do not indulge into this kind of practices. And so he says, for example, every other month there is one judgment from some court where they say that more conjunctions are practiced. He 16 to see a credit. I mean, the amount collected in the department in both any days. Okay? You have to understand this provision. एक तो रेसिपिएंट ने bona fide tax पे किया है, तो रेसिपिएंट tax पे कर रहे हैं और रेसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट भी देना है. So the all the has to be taken by the recipient. Okay? So this provision is a big problem over here. Now ये तो provision है. ये pre-GST centralized service tax में नहीं था. But in the pre-GST VAT, this provision existed in many states. In Maharashtra, in Delhi, everywhere this kind of provision existed. Okay? In Delhi, this kind of provision was struck down. In Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court said no, this provision is fine. The credit that the department gives to you is only a concession. It is not your vested right. So when they are giving the credit, you have to fulfill certain conditions. If you are not fulfilling those conditions, the government has the right to deny the credit to you. So if the government is giving you some credit, the government can expect following those certain conditions. If you are not following, you are not getting credit. Okay? That is what the Bombay High Court was saying. Delhi High Court said that no, credit cannot be denied if recipient is bona fide paid to the supplier. If it's and recipient is in no way to ensure the supplier to pay the tax to the government. So Delhi High Court was positive, Bombay High Court was negative. Now, what was the differentiating factor between Maharashtra VAT and Delhi? Maharashtra VAT means similar to the GST provision, there was a matching concept. So recipient had a way of means to verify the supplier and tax government to pay किया है या नहीं किया है. In Delhi VAT, there was no matching concept. Along with that, Delhi VAT there was a provision which was saying that the returns filed by somebody is confidential. So nobody has access to those returns. Okay. So even if recipient wanted, they could not check the returns to the supplier to see whether they have paid the tax or not. So Delhi High Court said that when returns are confidential and recipient has no means to verify whether the tax has been paid to the government or not, then you cannot deny the credit. Bombay High Court said that look, we have a matching concept, credit can be denied. On this basis only, even on the GST, Section 62 so far has been held constitutional. Okay? अभी तक कोर्ट को कोई मेजर रिलीज नहीं किया है. Courts have been saying that no credit will not be available. Okay? However, there are one or two courts which just simply say that you just have to ensure that we first go after the supplier. आप directly recipient के पास मत आओ. आप पहले supplier के पास जाओ. You try to collect the tax from the supplier. If you fail to collect the tax from the supplier, pay it from the recipient. Don't directly come to the recipient and say the credit will not be available. Okay? So the judgment is the same time. Yes.
Other than I wanted the and GST one. So it is reflecting in my GST pool. It must be that correct? Limited rate. Functionality doesn't allow me to check even today that there is a tax has been paid. GST 3P has been filed.
Okay.
So in that case, country contest that GST one, if the invoice has been uploaded, that means the liability they have accepted. Now recovery is there now.
Right.
It is not.
What he's saying is that what is reflecting in the GST movie of the recipient is supplier which is being declared as GST amount. So what is happening? Supplier is filing GST amount. From that, those suppliers are coming in GST movie, and on the basis of GST movie, you are taking the credit. However, actually speaking, you are not paying taxes to GST amount.
Okay.
You are actually paying taxes to GST. So it's possible that the supplier files GST one, shows the payment, but actually never makes the payment to GST. If he is just showing the payment but not making any payment to GST and recipients have no ways to know whether they have actually made the payment to GST or not, then again the Delhi High Court decision should apply, credit should be applied. Okay. Now, so there are two things over there. Okay. One is that now today I don't today's date. If you file to one and you not file CB, then next month GST one you will not be able to get it. No, now they are not ready to do that also, I believe. Can you verify that if you've shown 100 in JCR one, can you find JCR CB with only 150?
Maybe because of you can still edit GST.
You can edit JCR CB and pay only 150 instead of 100.
No, like how much is like 90?
No, it's not ITC, sir.
That's like it is not having the net of ITC, of ITC.
No, sir. What I'm trying to say is that your JCR one, you showed an output supply of 100 rupees. In JCR CB, you're showing the output supply of only 1 rupee.
It gets auto-populated, but it is edited.
So it gets auto-populated.
This will come.
The immediate notice will come. Immediate. Okay. So you are saying in one you show 100, but in CB you still show 0, right? I mean, that issue is there and we've been fighting in many high courts. That issue is there and we've been fighting in many high courts. I think this particular issue is lying in every high court. Okay, every high court. In every high court, there is a particular interpretation on this issue. But till now, we don't have a favorable outcome. And going by, I think we now have 15 judgments on this order on this issue. And not even one judgment is positive. So going with the trend, it seems that there is not going to be any positive judgment.
It's the supplier is identifiable. But he's not paying.
So that was the thing. The court said it's a supplier is identifiable, supplier is still present in the system. Please go up to the supplier, don't go up to the recipient.
So he's factored or whatever.
Insolvency was a lot.
उसमें फिर वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं इंसॉल्वेंसी का ये केस में और डील करती हूँ ओके दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग केस I can't find it for any kind there is a non-insolvency wala case. The problem is supposing I'm a manufacturer, okay? I have 100 crore liability to pay the government. Okay, I have become insolvent. NCLT में गया मेरा company. Corporate resolution process में somebody bought my company. They bought the company for X amount. उसमें जो भी GST rules है वो waive off हो गए. Okay, so 100 crores जो supplier was liable to pay to the government that was waived off. Supplier never paid an amount to the government. Okay. Now, the recipient who had paid the taxes to the supplier bona fide, because the supplier did not pay the government and it got waived off in the NCLT. In those cases, will the recipient be eligible for credit or not eligible for credit? So, this section 15 rules will still apply in those kind of situations. जहाँ पे liability to pay GST itself has got waived off under insolvency in bankruptcy code. इस situation में भी Delhi High Court में interpretation filed है. Attorneys are arguing that the clean state principle should apply. What cannot be done directly should also not be done indirectly. तो supplier directly collect करने मना कर रहे हैं, then GST department cannot block the recipient indirectly collect from the rest. So they are saying ये सब केस में 16 position वन रखा है. Department is saying that insolvency and bankruptcy code and GST are applying in two different domains at all. So they said the collection of supplier we agree we cannot collect anymore. But section 16(2)(c has an independent application and section 16(2)(c में we are still within our rights to deny the same. वो झगड़ा अभी चल रहा है, उसका भी कोई जजमेंट नहीं आ रहा.
ये सब प्रॉब्लम इसलिए हम लोग डायरेक्टली पे नहीं कर सकते, अगर हम लोग ही डायरेक्ट गवर्नमेंट को पे करते हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ द सप्लायर तो प्रॉब्लम ही सॉल्व.
Correct. But you're not able to do that.
Madam, there are backdated security, GST circular, which is contradicting or denying the input tax because of this non-selling 1819 and after that some circular already came, no? Denying all this against the High Court judgment or whatever case are going on.
So there are cases returns have not been filed and taxes have not been paid, the recipient will not be paid.
That is simple circular they have already issued. So even if
There is also one other circular there issue. It's not working. भैया तो एक प्रेस रिलीज और इशू है. तो एक्सचेंज में सेज दैट डायरेक्टली रेसिपिएंट की बात है, जस्ट लाइक द हाई कोर्ट इज सेइंग वैसे गवर्नमेंट के साथ किस तरफ से भी डायरेक्टिव है कि आप देखिए रेसिपिएंट के पास जाके क्रेडिट डिनाई मत करो. आप पहले सप्लायर के पास जाओ, अगर वो अनट्रेसेबल है, लॉस पे है, सिस्टम में प्रेजेंट नहीं है, तभी आप रेसिपिएंट के पास जाके क्रेडिट डिनाई करते हो. नहीं तो आप सप्लायर के पास ही पहले जाओ. तो वो वाला भी है इनका. बट अगर सप्लायर फॉर एग्जांपल स्विगी वाला केस आ लो, साउथ अफ्रीका बांध दिए हैं, उनसे तो इनको कभी कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला है.
they are contradicting their own circular both.
So what they are trying to say कि अगर सप्लायर से कलेक्ट कर सकते हो तो पहले वो ट्राई करो, अगर वहां से नहीं होगा तो फिर ये कर सकते हो.
There we will find out whether they have got to supply or not.
All those practical issues. That problem is there, sir. अब स्विगी वाले केस में स्विगी itself was not being able to contact the supplier. They tried everything to contact the supplier, they were not being able to. So we know government will not be able.
We have transformed actually the logistic business, so they are not traceable on this. They have closed their offices and left somewhere and closed their GST
So sir,
registration also.
जब starting में GST आया था, government had proposed a ranking system. कि जो जितना GST compliant होगा उसको हम points या rank देंगे. So you can see the rank and there are accordingly to the reason.
अभी
वो ranking system को implement नहीं हुआ सर. उन्होंने कुछ सर्टिफिकेट बोला था ranking system करेंगे जिससे सबको पता लग जाए कि कौन कितना compliant है. But if you never introduce a ranking system when you are appointing a vendor, you don't know if the vendor is GST compliant. The problem is कि आप जब तक try and test नहीं करोगे, you will not know कि आपको धोखा हुआ है. वो issue है.
It should not have issued the retrospective circular if all this problem was on that side.
They are aware, sir. They know.
But the cases are going on, no, the entity are unnecessary.
Sir, so they know. They know.
But the officer will not know. They will not take.
Yes, the government also knows, but government is very protective of its revenue and you have to take it. Okay, I'll just take one last thing then. So this is very similar to the previous we just discussed. This is reversal of ITC on account of supplier becoming non-existent later. Okay. Now what has happened is that, and as of today, so what happened? Supplier picked the supplier to me. I paid the tax to the supplier. Supplier filed the return to pay the tax to the government. Okay. After 2 months, the supplier cancelled the GST registration. So for some reason, 2-3 महीने बाद supplier का registration cancel होता है. GST department came to the supplier, came to the recipient and said that the supplier has become non-existent. He's not there on the GST portal at all. You will not be eligible for payment. Recipient says that correct. To and think that the supplier has become non-existent और GST portal पर भी कुछ भी नहीं करते हैं. But in the extent of my supplier, at that point of time, he had paid the taxes to me. If at that point of time you are able to prove that he has filed the GST returns and what supplies have been made to you, that actually is paid to the government. Then to that extent, it will be okay. Okay. So there's a recent judgment that has come where they say that no, tax will have actually been paid. Even if the supplier is a non-existent to later point in time, you cannot deny the payment. But स्टार्ट का आपका भी स्पीड से वो सब खुद करना पड़ता है अगर आप खुद कर पाओ तो क्रेडिट मिलेगा नहीं खुद कर पाओ तो फिर आप वही करते हैं sorry
On the date of transaction, you are registered.
sir maybe but you have to prove that the payment is made to CB also contains the taxes that you have paid to
What you have to do on the date of transaction, here
sir I'll tell you something this transaction is 5 people okay so 5 people he pay he supplied goods for 100 rupees and he's taking something payment so 18 into 5 90 rupees he has to pay to the government out of 90 only 50 to the government वो 50 में A B C B कौन से इनका कितना पेगा उसको how to know that sir there is no way
उसका टीवी देख
उससे टीवी में सर सीबी इज कंसोलिडेटेड रिटर्न कौन से सप्लाई केयर को 50 रुपीस का ऑपरेशन करना ये डोंट नो दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम
ये सर्टिफिकेट चलेगा कौन एक सी
certificate has some value over here post certificate have a certificate but ये तो practical problem होता है ना everybody will come to see certificate and ये बता कि मेरा अमाउंट
ये काम बहुत नीचे गया गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर से देखिए और ये
सेशन में होना चाहिए उसके बाद डॉक्टर रिपोर्ट आफ्टर सेशन वन टू वन क्वेश्चन will be
I'll let it go offline because you exceeded the time. I'll answer it with you offline. So yeah. So ये problem है. So CA certificate to a certain extent helps. Normally officers apply CA certificate also, but it totally depends on the situation that now you're presenting the CA certificate. So thank you everyone for attending the session. And if you have any queries after the session, you can come to me and I can solve this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Amrita ji, for your nice presentation. Now I request our past convener, Jayesh Takkarji, to give a word on behalf of our representative.
Thank you, convener.
Thank you, convener.
Dear friends, the way we had this first session, the second session also very live and interactive, and considering the number of participants, we assume the importance of the topic. Really speaking, the topic, since it was on the ITC part and the GST, the ITC, if you ask me, really speaking, ITC is the heart of entire GST enactment. And when we are discussing on the hard part, so we know the importance, right? And considering the learned speaker, Nived, she also tried and covered most of the important provisions along with the citations, and she tried to address each and every queries raised by the members. So thank you very much for extending your valuable time today. We were little late, right? Then she gave too many, much of your, I think, areas are being covered. So thank you very much for your valuable time, and on behalf of JB Nagar City State Circle and on behalf of all the members, we thank you very much.